You're listening to the Outstanding Life Podcast with your host, Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy. As a motivational speaker, Johnny D impacts audiences around the world with his message of living the outstanding life. He's a best-selling author, MC, and two-time Grammy-considered artist. This podcast is a place where Johnny D can introduce you to his outstanding friends and share funny, interesting, and heart-provoking stories. Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up. Here comes your host, Johnny D.
Hey everybody, I'm Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Outstanding Life Podcast. Before we get things kicked off today, I want to say a big hello to all my friends tuning in on Dirt Road Radio, KYDT 103.1 FM and KBFS 1450 AM. Can't thank you guys enough for tuning in every single Sunday. Love you guys. Hey, in the Outstanding Life Podcast studios with me live is my good buddy, Bill Melbach. Bill, what's up, my friend?
Absolutely. How you doing?
Man, I'm doing outstanding. Bill,
Fantastic.
You've been saying for years, Johnny D, you know, I do all of this podcast stuff with you with what you want to talk about. But will you please put something on that I want to talk about, that I'm excited about? So today is your day, Bill.
Outstanding.
Today is your day. Because
Excellent.
when you said, I want to do something about ghost hunting, you know, I mean, you've done movies, you've done all kinds of cool things with ghost hunting. I thought, you know what, Bill? Fine. I got people. And I went and found the number one guy in ghost hunting. He's in Indianapolis, Indiana, or Noblesville, Indiana, and his name is Tobin Wilkerson. I've known this guy for 15 years, so please welcome to the show my good friend Tobin. Tobin, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Absolutely outstanding.
Fantastic.
Tobin, thank you for making Bill's day to talk about things that he loves to talk about. And Tobin, like I said, I've known you for 15 years, and I know that this is something you absolutely love. And I love following everything you do. And I'm going to jump right into this. And I want to know when you got your start ghost hunting.
That's a great question. I think I got my start probably in the mid 80s. And I say that because the house I grew up in had a lot of paranormal activity that back then as a kid, I didn't really truly understand it. But, you know, we broke out the Ouija board and we tried to communicate and tried to get answers and information and everything that we could. And I mean, it scared my mom so much. She had a priest come out and exorcise the house. And we had people come out and put people in trances to try to communicate with spirits that were in the house. And we had a lot of stuff moving. A lot of people came over and experienced it as well. But it wasn't until probably 2002, 2003 when the show Ghost Hunters came out. And I thought, you know, wait a minute, you can do this. You can actually go look for ghosts. And I got hooked right away. I thought,
you're living it, literally.
I'm like, I need to be doing this. My curiosity is so much there that I just need to start doing it. So I got a couple friends together and we got some basic equipment and said, let's go do this.
Tobin, I want to back up a little bit. So you're a young man living at home, and I'm sure your parents loved you, but they stayed in the house that was haunted.
Yeah,
like you literally grew up there. Because I would be like, hey, honey, we're gone.
We were there for about 7 years or so. And then, you know, after the 7th year, I think my mom got tired of it and said, all right, let's go somewhere else. And we did. But, you know, those 7 years were full of activity and things and experiences that I still today can't really explain.
Wow. So is that what inspired you then to get into the business?
Yeah, I absolutely. Like I said, when you're a kid going through that, it's more fearful than anything because you don't know what's happening. You don't know what's going on. And the word ghosts, thanks to movies and entertainment, you know, is a scary type thing. But once I was removed from the situation and the fear went away, the curiosity kicked in. And once the curiosity kicked in, it was all over from there. It was any books I could read or shows I could watch that dealt with ghosts or paranormal activity. I was kind of hooked on it. And then, like I said, the shows came out and I was just hooked right away.
Tobin, if somebody's listening right now saying, you know what, this is a bunch of rubbish, there's no such thing as ghosts, what would you say to those people?
Well, I would say you never really become a believer until you have your first experience.
Right.
And that's for everybody out there. So, if that's something that you believe, by all means, that's totally fine. If you never have an experience in your life that deals with the paranormal, then that's just the way it is. Sometimes you need to open yourself up to it and allow yourself to have those experiences. But again, if you don't have that experience, then you really have nothing to go off on.
And you were hooked from a very young age. You created a show on YouTube called Ghost Diaries that was actually picked up by Scream TV and ran for a whole season. What was that like for you to first of all, do a show? Like everybody wants a show these days, right? And so you do your own show on YouTube, and then it gets picked up.
Well, this was years ago. Really only on SyFy was the Ghost Hunter show. And so I went to my team and I said, look, YouTube it wasn't hugely popular at the time. I think it was fairly new when YouTube was coming out. And I said, there's nothing on YouTube that deals with ghosts or paranormal, no paranormal shows. We're carrying around video cameras anyway. Why don't we kind of film what we're doing, kind of edit it together and put it out there and see what happens? And they were excited about it, and I was excited about it. So we tried it. And once we did, we put out a singular episode, and I go back and watch it now, and it's kind of cringy, but it was still a whole lot of fun. And then we started putting together better episodes. And once we did that, we got a phone call from Screen TV saying, hey, we'd like to pick this up and make a show out of it. And we edited some stuff for them, and it was a fun, cool experience.
That's awesome. And so not only were you got picked up by Scream TV, you're on YouTube, but then your team did a show for Fox. Talk a little bit about that and what that was about.
So Fox here in Indy does an annual show called Haunted Indy, and they contacted us to take them to what's called Central State Insane Asylum, which is downtown Indianapolis, and it's known for its paranormal activity and its ghosts and whatnot. So they wanted to get in there, and we had special access to it. So we took them in there probably 10 times to try and get enough footage and enough activity going on for them to get a show going. And the last time we went there, it was pretty quiet for the first few times we were there, but the last time we went, because Fox wanted to get more footage, we had all kinds of stuff happen that night, and it was a fantastically active night that was a whole lot of fun, and a little bit scary, but also a lot of fun.
You said that you had a special access. Now, here in Detroit, when we want special access, that means we break a chain and we sneak in the back door. What did you really have permission, or are you even allowed to tell us, or did you just get in through the back door?
Oh, no, it wasn't through the back door. No, we have one thing that we hold in high regard is when you're doing ghost hunting, you don't just show up to a property and walk in without any permission. That's kind of a no-no. A lot of people, you can go to jail doing that. So we make sure. And one of the guys that is on the team with me, he's an agent with Homeland Security, so he has a lot of connections. And believe it or not, in this old, dilapidated, giant, haunted building in the basement, the U.S. Olympic diving team is where they trained. It's so weird. You go down these steps, there's spray paint, there's graffiti, there's ceilings caved in, then you walk into this giant gymnasium in the basement with all this equipment. And somehow the guy that I just mentioned that's on our team knew one of the coaches there and was able to get us access to the building in that respect. So we did have actual access to get in there. So
I didn't go in and see that episode. I'm just wondering, did you find anything that night?
Yeah. Like I said, the last time we went in there, we had quite a bit of activity stemming from, we had shadow figures coming out and walking towards us and walking away. The host of the show got touched on the chest, like a full-on handprint where it pushed him back just a little bit, and his heart was racing when that happened. That really, really freaked him out to have that kind of experience. We had lights going on and off in some of the rooms that we couldn't explain. So it was a very interesting night.
Speaking of interesting, Tobin, I had a quick question about this stuff you guys have done at the Conner Prairie's Headless Horseman event. I was really interested in that. Tell me what's going on there.
So Connor Prairie is it's a outdoor museum here in Indiana. And it's a 1700s, I believe 17 or 1800s town. It's a full on town attached to the museum. They can go and walk around. And the Headless Horseman is something that they put on every single year during the Halloween time, that you go on hay rides and the Headless Horseman comes out and scares you and everything. And it's just a giant festival. It's really, really big. And so they contacted us to come out and do what's called paranormal presentations. They gave us a giant tent with about seating for about 100, 120 people. We had a big projector and a screen and a sound system. So Todd and I put together this presentation that dealt with all the activity, the places that we'd been, some evidence that we had caught. And we would do 3 presentations a night for 3 nights in a row. People would come in and we would introduce ourselves, talk about how we got into the ghost hunting and the paranormal. And then we would show them places that we had been. We'd play evidence for them. We would show them photos and do videos. And then we would answer questions for about 15, 20 minutes. And the place was always packed. There was standing room only. And it was a great time. People just loved it.
Tobin, you're married. You have
Yep.
kids, right?
Yep.
You did this before you were married, correct?
Yes.
And your wife still married you knowing that this is what you do on the weekends.
Which is probably the only reason I can still do it now. Yeah. Yeah.
So is your wife involved too? Or is this something that she's like, listen, do your thing, just come home and just, I don't even want to hear about it? Or is she involved?
Don't bring anyone home with you. Yeah. The whole thing. It was early on, she went on a couple of them with us just to, see what it was all about and get the experience and have fun. And I think after a couple of them, because, it's in the middle of the night and you get pretty tired. And I think after a couple of them, she was like, okay, I get the idea. You go have fun and I'll hang out at home. So, yeah.
And you have kids too. So what do your kids think about dad doing this?
The boys, they are just kind of like, all right, cool. You do your thing and have fun. My daughter, Emma, who's 11, she's about to be 12 this summer. She actually does it with me. She goes out on ghost hunts with me, and Todd has a daughter that's around 13. And then someone else has a daughter that's around 12. And so they have their own little kid ghost team that when we go do a ghost hunt, they get together. There's 3 or 4 of them. And they walk around while we're setting up equipment and they do their own little ghost hunt. And then while we're doing other stuff, they'll get together and do their thing. So they have their own logo, their own team, and all kinds of stuff. So she really enjoys it.
Tobin, wait a second. Bill, you would do a lot with your daughter.
Yeah.
I do a lot with my daughter.
Yeah.
Tobin, what is it like for you to have your daughter at these facilities? And are you ever nervous for her or have you been there with her when she saw her first ghost or felt the first spirit, or did you experience that with her?
No, she's had some experiences with other people. We'll send an adult with the group with them just to make sure, everything's good and everybody's safe and whatnot. And it's not always me that goes with them. It's kind of whoever's free to do that and whoever wants to go with them and walk around. She's heard voices, they've heard bells, they've experienced cold spots. They haven't really had a true hair-raising paranormal experience that I think she's waiting for that. But I haven't really taken her to anywhere that's dangerous. I've taken her a few times to a place called Laurel Hall Mansion here in Indianapolis, which is a giant mansion built in the very early 1900s that's owned by a fraternity now, but there's a lot of activity there, and we've been there probably 7 or 8 times to investigate. We've taken her to, there's a place called the Rhodes Hotel, which has been on TV with ghost adventures and ghost hunters. It's in Atlanta, Indiana, not too far from her house. We've been there twice with her. And I think that's it so far with her. It's still kind of new, but she really wants to go to Waverly Hills and she wants to do the big places. So that's going to be exciting for her.
Tobin, for the people that don't know, you just brought something up while you were talking about the adventures with your daughter. You brought up the word cold spots. Can you explain to the listeners what a cold spot is and why they are there?
Sure. And it's, again, completely theoretical because this whole field is based on theories that people believe and what they believe could possibly be true. So when a spirit or an entity tries to manifest itself, it takes energy. And when it takes energy, that could be the heat out of the air. So when you feel a random ball of cold air, it's theoretically because a ghost has taken the energy from that air in order to manifest itself, to do something, to make a noise or to present itself or whatnot. So a cold spot is just a spot that has a lack of energy.
Just real quick, Johnny, just so you're aware, when you feel a cold spot, you know it's a cold spot.
Really?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You feel a temperature change. And in fact, I've actually been where it feels like it can feel like it actually envelops your whole body.
Wow.
Yeah. And you can definitely tell. I mean, I would say probably it's a good 10, 20 degree change from the ambient air around it. And it's very pronounced, as in you can kind of stick your hand into that cold spot and pull it out and tell the difference in the air temperature. So
in fact, the saying spine chilling, it's kind of comes from that. Let me ask you a quick question. So you were mentioning several locations. Have you come across any like famous haunted locations or landmarks while you guys are investigating?
Yeah, we've investigated Waverly Hills, which is one of the big places down in Louisville, Kentucky.
That's been on TV and stuff, right?
Oh, many times.
Yeah.
Yep. Also, Bobby Mackey's Music World, which has been on Ghost Adventures a couple different times, and Ghost Hunters. And it was at that location where we had, I think, my one and only angry spirit that had kind of scared some people while we were there.
What about a prison?
The Noblesville prison we've done, which is in downtown Noblesville. John Dillinger was there and some other people. I can't remember the names of who was there. It was quite a long time ago. But not a giant prison, but a jail we've done.
I've been to the one that they shot Shawshank. Yeah.
Shawshank.
Yeah, I've been to that one. I've done the tour.
Nice.
I took a picture. My mom was always very much into the paranormal as well, so we had that in common. And I remember we were taking the tour, and she tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Take my picture right now. I feel like there's something behind me." And she felt a cold spot. I took a picture, and when I took the picture, there was the shape of a person standing right behind her.
Tobin, I'm just curious. I'm getting goosebumps right now. Was that picture taken by the tunnel?
No, it was not.
Okay, you know the tunnel because I have pictures of what they would call orbs, what I mean? Or some people call them dust spot. I don't know.
Johnny D pulling out the big stuff, the big guns, the orbs. Nice.
And Tobin, why don't we just talk a little bit about what is an orb?
I'm not a big believer in orbs.
He thinks they're dust, right?
It could be a lot of things. Could be dust, could be bugs, could be moisture in the air. When it comes to when you're looking at an IR camera, it's going to reflect the light back no matter what you put in front of it. Now, the only time that I would believe in an orb is if I saw it with my own eyes, not on camera, and if it was emitting its own light and acting irrationally. That means flying around in a weird pattern or whatnot. And if it was big and did those things, then I would probably believe in it. But when I see the camera, I'm very, very hesitant to call it anything.
That's one for me there, Johnny, because I actually caught that on tape on while we were filming, and it wasn't supposed to be there, so we weren't looking for it either. So, hey, real quick, so now when you guys are out doing this, especially at all these different locations, do you guys have any type of ethics that you have to follow, or?
Our basic team ethics is we make sure that we never go out alone. So that way you can corroborate stories and make sure that, if I saw it, then you saw it, then it probably definitely happened. We make sure that, we treat the property, we treat the owner of the property with the utmost respect. They're letting us into their location or their house and checking on, doing a ghost hunt. So it's incredibly nice of them to be able to do that. So we try to be as respectful and as nice as possible. And leave things as we found them.
Tobin, do people ever reach out to you and say, "Hey, listen, we think that there's something going on in our home, in our business"? Do they ever reach out to you and say, "Hey, can you come and investigate"?
Yeah, absolutely. That's where we get most of the houses that we've done in the past. We've done residents where they will call us and tell us just like that they think something is going on. They can't sleep. They're not sure what's happening, or they have a general idea of, I think it's my father, I think it's my grandfather, or whatever it might be. And so we'll usually in that situation take a much smaller team. We don't want to inundate their house with like 10, 12 people. We'll take maybe a 3 or 4 person team. We'll go to the house and we'll get the information from the owner of the house that's experiencing the activity. And then we'll set up equipment and go from there. But yeah, that does happen quite a bit.
Have you ever had like a personal experience with a ghost spirit that you were like convinced that all of this was real?
A couple different times. So back in the house that I grew up in, with the Ouija board and everything like that, there was so much activity happening that my mom had invited some of her friends over, and I had some of my friends over, and we had the Ouija board out, and we're talking and we're asking, "Can you show yourself?" And they said yes, and they said, "Okay, how and where?" And it spelled out, and this is a very slow process when you're talking about a Ouija board, in front of the fireplace, turn off all the light. And in front of the fireplace, 3 lighted figures just kind of manifested there. And it just, everybody's jaw dropped and looked at it and said, this can't be. Someone who was very skeptical walked over and started putting their hand through them saying, "This has got to be something else. It has to be something else." And they couldn't figure out what it was because we had drawn all the shades, all the curtains, and tried to make sure no ambient light was coming in. And it was a very cool experience to make you think, yeah, this is real. And the second time was at Central State Insane Asylum on that last night of filming with Fox. Todd and myself, he was looking at a door and he thought something was happening. So we told the film crew to stay put. And he and I went into this big giant room with this hallway that was about, 50 feet away from us. And there was this shadow figure that was probably 4 feet tall. It kept peeking out from the wall and actually came out fully and was kind of standing in front of us, maybe 40, 50 feet from us, but you could definitely tell what it was. And then it ran into the hallway and we're looking at each other going, are you seeing this? And I'm like, yeah. Are you seeing this too? Yes, absolutely. So then we went back and got the film crew. And by the time we came back, everything had stopped. And of course, that's the way it goes. But, in that type of situation, you're thinking to yourself, man, this is real. What does this mean? So, yeah.
Tobin, oh my gosh, you just brought the hairs on my back are standing up right now. I was living on Capitol Street in Lincoln Park, Michigan, and I had never messed with the Ouija board or anything like that. And I had some friends over and we were having a couple adult beverages. This was years ago. And all of a sudden the Ouija board spelt out cancer. Okay. Now, after that, all of a sudden I looked to my right and I said, holy cow, everybody, look at right there in the hallway. And it was a mother and a little girl. Like you could make it out perfectly and everybody freaked out.
Wow.
Yeah. And at that, I'm getting goosebumps right now. And at the time I was like, okay, cool, whatever. But there was times I owned a landscaping company back then and I would come home knowing that I left my windows open and they were closed when it was raining and I came home.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Like, you know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
It never felt, it was weird, guys, because it never felt like when you think of a ghost, you think, ooh, and scary. Yes. This did not feel that way at all. It was a calming experience. It was just really weird. Now, let me get back to the word cancer on the Ouija board. 5 days later, I get a phone call from one of the girls that were there. And she says, hey, remember what happened the other day, with the Ouija board and it spelled out cancer. She goes, my mom was just diagnosed.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
So you know what I mean? So everything you just said, it brought back memories from years ago.
Hey, Tobin, real quick, what's your take on the Ouija board? What's behind that?
I'm not a huge fan of it. I know it was created and made by a game company, so I don't know if there's any validity behind it.
It actually started as a game, correct? Yeah.
Parker Brothers, I believe.
Yeah.
Something like that. We've tried to use it at other locations without any success. So, I think it's a hit or miss, or sometimes it can be fun. Sometimes it's not. It's just one of those things you don't really know.
Again, just real quick before we move on to the next thing, you mentioned orbs, but how about the shadow people? Explain that.
Yeah, shadow people, I wholeheartedly believe in. There have been a lot of reports of shadow people from around the world. And like I said, that story at Central State Insane Asylum, I believe that was a shadow person, a very small, possibly a child shadow person, because that's exactly what they looked like, was just a dark figure.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I saw.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the only experience I've had with one. And the only thing I can talk about would be, what other people have experienced with shadow figures. And that's a lot of stories. But I do believe that is something that is real.
Tobin, you have a podcast, and I love the name of your podcast, Beyond the Caution Tape. And let me just say, my friend, you do an amazing job on the podcasts. You talk about all kinds of things, true crime, ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot. Tell everybody why you created the podcast and how people can go and listen to it.
My friends and I, we all have a fascination with all of these topics. Now, we don't only ghost hunt together, but we talk about UFOs, we talk about Bigfoot, and we talk about true crime. And we've all gone camping together, and we've sat there and had conversations about all these things. And Bree, who's on the podcast, texted me one day and said, "Hey, why don't we record this, sit down. We're talking about it anyway. Let's make a podcast about it." I think you and Allie would be great at it. And the chemistry, I think, is really good with the three of us. We've known each other for quite a while. And we decided to do everything revolving around Indiana currently. So talking about Natalia Grace, who was that the Ukrainian little person who there was a big special about it. And we talk about Fox Hollow Farm, which has a lot of murders, and Allie was actually on a ghost hunting team that got to investigate Fox Hollow Farm. And we did an entire episode on ghost hunting versus paranormal investigating, and H.H. Holmes and Mike Tyson, and coming up is Jared Fogle. And the next episode after that is dedicated to UFOs, and then the Indiana stories of UFOs and whatnot. So anything Midwest or Indiana related that has to do with true crime or anything weird, that's what we wanted to talk about.
So, and how can people find it?
If they go to Apple or Spotify, you just type in Beyond the Caution Tape.
Guys, I'm going to go down a rabbit hole just real quick. Tobin, you brought it up.
Okay.
Guys, I want to believe in Bigfoot. I want to believe in Bigfoot.
We got Fox Mulder over here who wants to believe.
I want to believe. But, Tobin, have you seen Bigfoot?
All right, don't think I'm crazy or anything.
No, there's lots of squatchers out there. There's lots of them.
Yeah. So we got invited, my ghost hunting team, many years ago, probably 2009 or 10, to do a Bigfoot hunt in Salt Fork State Park in Ohio, which has a number of Bigfoot sightings. And we jumped at the chance to do a Bigfoot hunt, which was an absolute blast. So we had a cabin out there and everything. So we hopped in the car. It was a 5-hour drive. We took the team out there, and we went out in the woods and did a Bigfoot hunt. And a lot of it is just walking around and hitting sticks on trees and trying to get a response and whatnot. But Todd and I were down in a ravine in the middle of the night, and there was at the bottom of the ravine, there was a creek, and on the other side of the ravine, there were some trees. And he and I had an experience where probably 50 yards from us, which is still a good amount of distance, but we could see a head popping out from the side of a tree and eye shine. So it was blue eyes, just bright blue eyes, just peering at us, just coming out from behind a tree, looking at us, and then going back, and then looking at us, and then going back. And we're thinking, what is this? What's behind the tree looking at us? We looked at it and we determined the height, and we had found a Bigfoot footprint, or a footprint that was large, I'll say, and what they call a possible nest during this hunt earlier in the day. So we determined, or we believe, that we may have had a Bigfoot experience there. But the big hairy guy, we didn't see that. We just kind of saw something big looking at us.
How big?
We think it was probably around 8-9 feet.
With that, everybody, I'm Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy. You're listening to the Outstanding Life podcast, and we'll be back after this message.
Everyone wants to wake up in the morning and feel like today is their day, that everything is going to go their way, and nothing can stop them. But so many people let the day conquer them instead of the other way around. Find your motivation with the new book, Wild Cards of Success, from Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy. This book is a masterclass in self-empowerment for anyone who wants to redefine their limits. Order your copy of Wild Cards of Success today at motivationalcowboy.com.
Hey everybody, I'm Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy. You're listening to the Outstanding Life podcast, and we have Bill Melbach in the studio with the ghost hunter himself, Tobin Wilkerson. Tobin, we were just talking about Bigfoot, and you talked a little bit about, you talk about UFOs. Again, I want to believe in UFOs. Have you had the opportunity to film or to see a UFO yourself?
Again, it's going to be like my Bigfoot story. When I was a kid, I was messing around with a telescope and I came across something in the sky that was silver and not moving and oblong shaped, no wings. And I stared at it for a good 10 seconds before losing it in the telescope. And I was like 9 years old at the time. But it really stuck with me throughout the years thinking, what was that I saw? And so that curiosity has, again, branched into just a fascination with everything UFO, which, that's part of the paranormal paradox is what's real and what isn't. And I just, I push myself to find out because I'm really just a very curious person.
Tobin, how do you deal with the fear or anxiety during a ghost hunt, especially in situations where you may feel threatened or maybe even overwhelmed?
You can. I mean, once you do it for a long time, you kind of learn how to push that kind of down. Now, most of it is because you're in the dark most of the time. You can't really see anything. And there's a reason for that. But you're in the dark. You can't see. You're in a strange location and you're looking for something scary. So that fear is there. And then, like we talked about earlier, you run into a cold spot and that cold spot can raise the hairs on the back of your neck or on your arm. And it can really give you a jolt of, hey, what is this? What's happening? What's going on? Is there a ghost around me? I can't see anything. So you kind of learn throughout the years how to squish that a little bit and kind of keep it down inside. But I mean, you can get to a point where you feel overwhelmed. And at that point, that's when we go back to the whole don't ghost hunt alone. We always go in pairs or groups. And so you're not by yourself. You're not scared. You're not running. If there's somebody there with you, you can, count on them to help you out, or you guys can lead each other out to either an outside location or to a different room. But that's why we do it in pairs, because, you can get scared and something bad could happen. If you're running through a dilapidated building in the middle of the night in the dark, you could really risk hurting yourself.
Have you ever been so scared that you actually just tapped out and said, okay, I'm done?
No, not yet, thankfully. I've been with people investigating that have been really good about not running out, not getting scared. If I get scared, the other person usually isn't, or if they are, I'm usually not. So I haven't really had that particular situation where it's been so scary that you just had to get out. Have
you ever came home thinking that something was attached to you because of a hunt?
No, actually not yet. And it's been over 20.
You're like, not yet. Looking forward to that day.
Yes.
It would make the wife very upset if I brought a ghost home, and she would probably yell at it enough to get it out of the house. So if it did follow me home, they would leave rather quickly.
Nice. Hey, Tobin, something that's always blown my mind. Have you guys ever worked with mediums or psychics on the hunts? And if so, how does their presence on the investigation, how does that impact it?
I really want to, but I don't really know any. We have someone on our team who is fairly sensitive. And she can kind of tell, and we've corroborated that with some evidence, like she can tell certain things are going to happen or going on. And then that's when you break out the equipment and try to face, hey, where is this happening? And then you go that way and you get a really good EVP. So we've had some good results with that, but we've never brought in a bona fide, hey, I talked to ghosts type deal. I'd love to, though.
Bill, you have a story about that because you told me about one. You guys were filming a movie, right? And you brought in.
Absolutely.
Tell Tobin and all the listeners about that, because that was crazy.
Actually, Tobin, you'll love this one. So anyway, we brought in an actual real team. So I'm actually more of a filmmaker. So I didn't start into all that. So we brought in a paranormal team and they recorded a whole bunch of EVPs. Took me about 6 months to get it back, actually, all the reports. So I actually started listening to some of the stuff, and I heard a name, and then I researched the name and heard another name and researched the other name, and literally within walking distance of where we were filming, we were hearing from a serial killer.
Whoa.
And then we also heard from his victim, who they actually didn't pin the murder on until actually he died in prison. So it was like many years later. And the weird thing was the names actually sort of related to me. That's why I heard them and I felt it. And so it's like, it was very strange. So yeah, so very, very, very interesting stuff and strange, but strange phenomena indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. And EVPs are one of the best way to get evidence, I think, in anything that you do. You're usually going to walk away with an audio clip of the story. Video is hit and miss, and having experiences are hit and miss. You could have an investigation where absolutely nothing is going on, but you'll come home and you listen to that digital recorder and maybe get 20 EVPs out of it. You just never know.
Yeah. So just real quick on that note, what do you guys do with to record those EVPs?
So we have SB7s, so the spirit box.
Yeah.
We have that.
How was that, Tobin?
Oh, yeah. My impression of it. And we have the audio recorders that we use. We use really nice ones. We use the Zooms,
nice.
And they have multiple channels, and they have microphones that go multiple directions. So we're trying to figure out which direction the EVP was coming from, and that may help us in future investigations. But yeah, we try to use really good audio equipment. I really feel if you watch the show like Ghost Adventures and a couple others use the same time, the audio recorders that they use are really kind of a low quality, and it's really hard to tell if what you're hearing is a ghost or just static or whatnot. We're trying to get as clear an EVP as possible to make sure that what we're putting out there is actually unexplainable and not, someone farting or whatever.
Tobin,
that can be paranormal in and of itself.
Tobin, why? Like when you go, or even when I watch YouTube videos or I watch TV, and you're watching one of these shows, you guys seem to always ask a core group of the same questions as the next guy. Why is that? Do certain questions just translate better to ghosts?
I think it's a matter of simplicity. It takes a lot of energy. Theoretically, it takes a lot of energy to manifest yourself or to do anything as a ghost. Again, theoretically. So when you're asking questions, you want to be as simple as possible, kind of yes/no questions, or can you just give me your first name, or what year is it for you? What year did you die? Those types of things, short answers. You don't want to have them come back and give you a full sentence would be absolutely amazing, but you want them to come back with, you want to give them the opportunity to give you an easy answer. I think it gives you a better opportunity to gather evidence when you give them an easy question.
So can you share some of the most compelling evidence you've ever captured during a ghost hunt?
Sure. In my early days of ghost hunting, we started off, I didn't have a team. I didn't have the credibility. I didn't have anything behind me to say, hey, let me come into your house and ghost hunt. So I got on the interwebs and I said, hey, what are some urban legends in Indiana? And so we would pick 3 or 4 a night. And we did this probably 3 or 4 times, pick 3 or 4 in a particular area. And then we would go to that urban legend area. And by urban legend, it would be, hey, this cemetery has a ghost that always sits on this stump at such and such time of night. So we would go at that time of night, try to talk to it and try to film it and whatnot. Or, this covered bridge, you honk 3 times, flash your lights, and then handprints show up on your car. It was a lot of fun. But we didn't really get much activity except for this one cemetery in Peru, Indiana, out in the middle of nowhere, and not much was happening. But when we were listening to the audio, we got this real low growl, and it was really loud, like it was right next to the digital audio recorder. And we didn't hear this while we were doing it. So this really low growl, and then what it sounded like just slow-mo talking. And I had a friend who was an audio engineer, so I sent it to him and said, can you speed this up, slow it down, see what we can get out of it? And so it goes through the growl, and then it's a really clear voice just saying, "Leave us," like get out of here type deal.
Well, how does that feel when you're listening to something that's now been made clear and it's literally growling at you?
Right. It's do I want to go back and follow up on that? I really don't know. Because it's, the urban legend at that particular location was kind of a demonic story. So when you get that plus the evidence that we gathered, it was like, okay, something's there. We don't know what it is, but I don't really want to go back either. So it just is what it is, kind of keep everybody safe, and you don't want anything evil kind of following you home or doing something to you while you're there in the middle of the night.
Tobin, how do you mentally prepare or maybe even emotionally prepare for a ghost hunt?
It's very easy. We go to Subway, we get a sandwich, we grab some snacks. At this point, it's a matter of, hey, here are the stories. Here's the plan of attack. Just go in and do it. There's no real preparation with it. It's just kind of a given thing at this point.
Tobin, have you ever had a skeptic join you on a ghost hunt? And if so, did their perspective change after seeing evidence firsthand?
Absolutely. Yeah. We like to have skeptics every once in a while come with us. We'll do some ghost hunts around the Halloween time. Especially the last couple of years at the mansion that I had mentioned. And, we try to get some activity, and usually at that location, we'll have some sort of activity every single time, which is a lot of fun.
Nice. How do you handle those skeptics?
Education. It's here. This is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it. Here's what you might experience. And if you do, try not to run. We will try to find a reasonable explanation for whatever you experience. And if we don't, then you got to chalk it up to, hey, it might be something paranormal. It might not be. So we just try to educate and talk to them as best we can. And then we haven't had any incidents that's bad so far.
Tobin, if somebody's listening right now and they're like, you know what, I have a haunted place and I need to get a hold of this guy. First of all, do you travel? And how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, the team is called Indiana SPI. That's Indiana S Sierra, P as in Paul, I as in iPhone, I guess, SPI. So you go to indianaspi.com, or you can look that up on all the socials. I think it's indianaspi@gmail.com. We do travel to a certain extent. Like I said, I've been to Kentucky, Ohio, Illinois, doing some of these things. Not Michigan yet. I'd love to get up there and do that. I know there's a lot of activity up in Michigan.
Tobin, I put on social media today that you were going to be on the show, and I asked social media to ask questions that they want to know. So this one came in, and honestly, I want to know this question because I've heard the name, and I want to know, and they want to know, what is a skinwalker?
Oh, that's a really good question. The reason that's a really good question is because it's very prevalent right now. If you watch on the Travel or Discovery, one of the really good channels I like to watch, there's The Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch, which is one of my absolute favorite TV shows right now. They do some of the coolest scientific experiments and get some of the best evidence I've ever seen with any location. But when it comes to skinwalkers, it's a Navajo culture thing. And the Navajo believe that it is a harmful witch that has the ability to turn into or possess or disguise themselves as an animal of some sort. And they can walk on 2 legs or 4 legs. So it can be a witch, that is somewhere, and then all of a sudden they turn into a wolf or whatever it is. And we don't know a lot about the origins of skinwalkers simply because the Navajo culture doesn't really trust information to outsiders. So it's a limited knowledge that we have of it, but that's the gist of it.
Tobin, this question came in, and this was another great social media question. And they wanted to know, do you only ghost hunt at night? It seems like every time you hear or see a ghost hunt, it's always in the evening. It's always in the early morning. Can you ghost hunt during the day?
Absolutely. Yeah. Ghost hunt whenever you want. I mean, the experiences are going to happen when they happen. And it doesn't matter if it's day or night. The reason that you see it at nighttime is because, as I said earlier, it takes a lot of energy for them to manifest themselves. So the example I like to give is if you're in a room in the middle of the day and you turn a flashlight on, you're not really going to see that flashlight very well. But if you turn off all the lights at night and you turn that same flashlight on, it's going to be extremely bright. So when they use that little bit of energy to manifest themselves, if they're only manifesting a little bit of light for you to see them, it's going to be a lot easier to see them in the dark.
How does the average person know that they encounter a ghost or a spirit?
Oh, that's a great question. I really don't know. I mean, I would say that you experience something that you cannot explain. If it's something that happens and you're like, I really don't know what that was, or it was transparent, or something came to me in my dream. If you believe it was a ghost, then it was probably a ghost. I think it has a lot to do with the experience and how you felt about that particular experience, and what you took away from that particular experience is going to determine what that experience was.
And this young lady wrote in, what advice would you give to somebody interested in getting started in the business?
Well, first, I wouldn't call it a business, because you are not going to get paid. You're going to spend your own money doing this, and that's part of the issue with going to different states and whatnot. You got to pay for lodging, you got to pay for gas, you got to pay for food. No one's going to do that for you. But getting into it, I would recommend having some sort of basic equipment. And by that, I mean a flashlight with extra batteries, a fairly cheap digital recorder. You can get those for probably $20, $30 that will work just fine. And a camera. And, you find a location, or what I've told people in the past is, look for a local group. Go online and look up ghost hunting group in your particular area. And then maybe contact them, reach out to them and say, do you ever bring people in? And most times they do. They'll take people out and see if they're a good fit with the group, because you really never know who you're going to be a good ghost hunting group with until you take them out and actually do a ghost hunt. So they'll take people out and test them out and see what's going on, and maybe use them as bait and see what happens, and then take it from there. But yeah, a lot of groups will definitely take you out to a location.
Tobin, in the very beginning of the podcast, you were talking about your daughter, and I asked you, what was it like when she first or seen her very first ghost? What was it like for you not being at home, but doing this professionally, and you saw your first ghost or spirit or heard something? What was that like? It's
exciting. It gives you...
Wait a second. Tobin, did you say exciting?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I mean, because you got to think about it. When you're going to these locations, you're looking for the paranormal activity. You're looking for something to happen. It kind of frustrates me a lot when you watch these TV shows and these ghost hunters will go into these locations specifically looking for paranormal activity or ghosts. And when they find it, they run away. Doesn't make much sense to me. So when that happens, you get a little tingle in your neck, your hair stands up, your body freezes for a second, and you're like, is this really happening? Is this real? And then you got to go through a checklist in your mind of, am I seeing something? Is it a light from outside? Did someone open a door and cause a vacuum? What could this be, or what is it not? So I think I automatically go into debunk mode when something happens. So I don't really have time to be fascinated by it.
Do you ever find out, like, later on when you're going back and watching the footage or listening to the footage, you're like, oh my gosh, like I missed that?
Oh yeah, for sure. You can't look at everything while you're in the ghost hunt. And a lot of the times, like we talked about earlier, you're doing this in the dark, and the cameras that we use have the IR, the infrared. So everything is green and looks cool. So you can't really pay attention to that the whole time. So when you're watching the video and reviewing the evidence, it's like going on the ghost hunt again, because you get to watch what the camera saw versus what you saw while you were there at the first time. So you can remember what happened and what you saw, and then you go back and watch the footage, and it's what's the camera saw. So you get to see a different angle of the exact same ghost hunt and maybe find something there, or maybe not.
Tobin, I'm going to wrap it up with this question right here.
Yeah.
If you could travel anywhere for a ghost hunt, if I said, Tobin, I'm going to give you my credit card number when we get off the air, and you can go anywhere in the world, where would you go? What would you ghost hunt, and why?
I would probably say the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado is one place that I would love to go. And that's where The Shining was written, Stephen King. They've done a lot of ghost hunts in that particular location and had a lot of activity there. And it's just a fascinating piece of property and history. I would love to experience it and check that out. I think it would be a great time. Plus, since it's a hotel, you get to stay the night in the haunted location and just, ghost hunt until you're so tired you can't do it anymore, and you go to sleep and wake up and keep doing it. I think that'd be a great location to go to. So when are you sending me?
I'm not. So that was just a question. But no, all kidding aside, I've known you for 15 years, and I know that you've traveled all over the country. Yeah. Have you ever been at, and I'm just like air quoting, the Hampton Inn and felt something in one of the hotels that you've stayed in?
No, and I do keep an eye out for things like that. So a place that you've been to and I've been to quite often, Pocono, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
There is you've probably stayed there, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's a historic hotel.
Right downtown there.
Yeah, I stayed there by myself once, and I was outside checking out the property because it was a beautiful building. And one of the kitchen staff was outside, and I said, excuse me, is there any stories of paranormal activity about this building? And he just started going right into probably 3 or 4 different stories about that particular building. And it was just fascinating to talk to him, but I didn't experience anything there, but it was fun to learn about it while I was there.
Tobin, I know that we only had you for 53 minutes, but how can people find your podcast, your YouTube channel, and how can they get a hold of you?
Sure. If you want to get a hold of the ghost hunting team, just look up on the socials, Indiana SPI. We've been around for quite a long time, so we have a lot of information out there, and we're pretty easy to find. Podcast-wise, just go to Apple or Spotify and look up Beyond the Caution Tape. And again, we do a lot of true crime, and we do a lot of UFO and Bigfoot and things that are coming up that are going to be a lot of fun. We're all over the place and easy to find.
Well, Bill, I appreciate, Bill, you coming over, hanging out in the studio with me. And Tobin Wilkerson, thank you so much for all of your insight. You are the true ghost hunter, and I can't thank you enough. Everybody, I'm Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy. Thank you for hanging out with me. And I want to say a big hello to all my friends tuning in on Dirt Road Radio. Again, thank you guys, and we'll see you next week right here on the Outstanding Life Podcast.
Hey, I'm Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy. Let me ask you, are you planning a conference, convention, meeting, assembly, or any live event that needs a guest speaker? Man, I would love to be a part of it. For more information, visit motivationalcowboy.com. And don't forget to check out my Outstanding Life podcast every Saturday morning at 6 a.m. right here on Dirt Road, KYDT 103.1 FM. I'm Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy, telling you, be safe, have fun, and have yourself an outstanding day.
Thanks for listening to the Outstanding Life Podcast. Follow Johnny D on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Motivational Cowboy. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the show, advertise, or would like to make a donation, please visit motivationalcowboy.com. And remember to have an outstanding day.